Why do we play fantasy role-playing games? Is it because a part of us wants to escape our regular lives and delve into the incredible worlds of adventure? Is it because we want to explore unknown territories and find new friends in unlikely places? Is it because we want to engage in fearsome battles of epic legend? Nope, it's because a lot of us want to make really terrible characters. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to It's Time to Stop. And also, welcome back to Desks and Dorks just in general. I'm Kyle. I am the Dork. And again, you're watching Desks and Dorks. It's your favorite board game design and creation show. We bring you the best indie tabletop games. First off, my heartfelt thanks to everybody that helped make March of the Mushwinds a huge success. By the time you were watching this, the Kickstarter will have already wrapped up. We're not taking late pledges. Thank you so much to everybody that backed. We really do, I really do mean that. I don't know what else to tell you other than, making a game company and deciding to do this full time was like one of the scariest decisions of my life, and it has wound up paying out in massive dividends, and I am incredibly grateful. I am so excited to do this video because if there's one thing that I freaking love more than anything, it is just riffing on stuff. And I decided that I was going to go to the cesspit of the internet, which is Reddit, and decide that I was going to do a little bit of not trawling, I guess, looking for horrible character ideas and telling you how to make them better. This is a great place, by the way, for me to say, hey, It's Time to Stop is the series that we do every single Thursday. And it basically just says, hey, if you'd like to, be a part of this, this is all we're talking about. Every Thursday, all we do is I talk about a concept or something in fantasy role-playing games that I don't like or that a lot of people don't like, and we basically talk about how to do it better. So I am going to break down a couple different really strange, very bizarre character concepts that I think are going to be pretty interesting. And I hope you all enjoy this. Let's talk a little bit. So our first character concept is the Steely McSteel Boy. This is, I don't know why I called him an NPC, but this is basically the player that just for whatever reason does nothing but steal. This is one of the players that I've had to deal with multiple times throughout the, shall we say, throughout my existence playing Dungeons and Dragons and playing other fantasy role-playing games. It's one of those things where, for whatever reason, players realize, oh man, I get to do everything I want to do. That means I can steal from everybody. And I'm going to be completely honest, it is really hard and really obnoxious to deal with this particular type of player. This is one of the things where sometimes the best thing that you can do is have a nice sit-down conversation and just say, hey, maybe don't steal from every single NPC. Maybe don't knock the nun unconscious to steal the silver candelabra that's the only thing of value in this church. Maybe just don't do that. But if you want to play a Steely McSteely Boy, then here's a couple ways that I think you could particularly do it. One of them is the most important is to give them a reason for stealing. So if you are doing a more grounded fantasy RPG, think something along the lines of Lamentations of the Flame Princess or Zweihander, or even a fantasy RPG like Blades in the Dark, for example, giving them a reason for stealing is a really compelling way for why they're like that. Regular people, even the most unhinged ones, usually don't go around stealing everything that's not bolted to the ground, right? However, somebody that is in debt to like the mob, for example, and that debt is coming soon, definitely would steal as much as humanly freaking possible, right? Because they're not worrying about the societal niceties of walking off with your grandmother's retirement fund. They're worried that if they don't do this, the mob is going to put their cousin into a blender, right? This is a great way to do this particular type of character some amount of justice. They could be doing this for a family member, a friend, a lover, themselves, but either way, if you're gonna steal everything, make a compelling reason for it. That's all I'm saying. A particular media property and RPG that does this well is Die. If you've ever read the graphic novel, they have a character, and originally it's called the Cyberpunk. I am blanking on what it is called in the tabletop RPG, and at this point, I don't care enough to go look it up. So I'm going to keep calling it the Cyberpunk. But in the game and the graphic novel, in which the game is based on, the Cyberpunk is a rogue-ish character that is essentially addicted to the money of the world, right? The money of this particular world is like called fairy gold, if I'm not mistaken. And essentially it not only powers every single one of their abilities, so they literally can't like exist without this particular type of money, but it's said that the reaction that it creates is almost like a chemical one. So it's almost like they're addicted, pardon me, to stealing money. It is a wonderfully brilliant, incredible little deconstruction of what a thief type character is, and I love it a lot. All right, let's talk about another one, the genius character, right? You always seem to get somebody who was like, I want to play like Sherlock Holmes or like Light Yagami or Tony Stark, and they want their character to look like this, and in the end, they wind up looking a little bit like this. These characters tend to want to be the smartest at all times, and they wind up being insufferable. If you want to play a genius character, one of the best ways that you can do it is to change your focus. So for example, instead of being the genius character that just wants to be the smartest at all times, why not be the character that wants to help at all times? I like to call this the assist and elaborate method, but this is when a really smart character contributes constantly. Think of them as being the person that tries to get as many rebounds and assists as possible in a basketball game. They might not be the one slam dunking it all the time, but they're definitely the ones setting up everybody else for success. Ironically enough, one of the best characters that does this is Watson in Sherlock Holmes. Now, is Watson the flashiest character? No, but Watson actually is quite brilliant in his own right, or their own right, depending on the iteration of Sherlock Holmes that you are watching and or reading. But what's interesting about this particular character type is by being useful, that genius stops being a burden. The party knows you're the smartest person in the room because you're always the one that is contributing the solution, but instead of rubbing it in everyone's face, you become the trusted answer giver and in many cases the core of a really experienced party. I love setting up a genius character as somebody who assists and contributes and really just tries to allow others to take the glory, but they're the ones kind of pulling the strings from behind the scenes. And if you're really good at this, your players won't realize it's really, you're kind of the one that's supplying them with all this information. You're really not the puppet master, because that feels a little condescending, but you're the character that's supplying them in this way until it's already kind of become your role. And I think that's kind of neat, and it really does fit the theme of this character. Another one that I think is interesting is the edgy character. I like to call these the Tip Fedora character. They're always the ones like, no, you wouldn't understand my pain. I'm Batman, right? They're not really Batman, but you get the idea. And this is a character that I hate to say it, a lot of my teenage players really like playing because they essentially equate being edgy and mysterious with being a good character. Those are not necessarily the same things. However, I do think, and I do have, or I should say, I have experienced edgy characters that have been done really well and done in ways that are compelling, interesting, and very, 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 how do I say this, meaningful in a fantasy role-playing experience, or just a role-playing experience in general. So how do you do that, right? Brooding is essentially an important part of the edgelord character, right? You can't have an edgelord character without having them brood. And if you want to make this character interesting, I think the best idea is to allow others into that brooding time, right? Don't brood too often. That's point number one. If you do it every session, it stops being meaningful. But when you do brood, make it happen, but include the other characters into it. This is a great opportunity for other characters to get involved in your process as an individual, as an adventurer, and it's also a really cool way to invite them into that world and make them a part of it. Your party members, your fellow characters are going to be so much more invested in your edgy brooding and your important, very dark storyline if they know why things are happening the way that they are. If they know the horrors that you have been through, if they know the things that you have experienced, then you want to know what? They might actually choose to help you out when the going gets rough, and they might actually appreciate all of that additional brooding that if you let them in, if you let them become a part of that process. And last but certainly not least, the stupid barbarian. This character concept comes up so freaking much. They're like, yep, we did it. We're gonna smash things, and I have 2 brain cells to rub together, and eventually it'll make fire, and I'm scared of fire because I'm a dumb barbarian. No. This is awful. Don't do this. Please. Love of all that is good and holy. Please do not do this. Please, 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 please. Barbarians can be incredibly interesting and incredibly compelling if you do them right. Instead of making a barbarian stupid, instead of making a barbarian dumb, why don't you make your barbarian curious, right? If you want to make a compelling character, an interested himbo is much more compelling than a bumbling moron, essentially, right? Think about it this way. If you are the greatest warrior from your tribe, from your area, from the place that you grew up, you are probably somebody who is a force to reckon with, right? So, make that character compelling, but make them curious. Some of the most interesting characters that I've seen have been characters with immense power, but they're characters who are sort of thrown off by the workings of the world they find themselves in. Think, for example, Dave Bautista's character in Guardians of the Galaxy. I really like that particular interpolation of that storyline. It's compelling, it's interesting, and I really kind of like it. That's a good example. There have been a number of other examples that have been done in the same way. For example, I'm blanking on the character, but there's a character in the X-Men comics who comes from the future, and instead of being like a total liability to the X-Men, they're an incredible asset, but they're really curious about the way that the world works, because the world works completely differently in this time than it does in the time that they came from. This is a compelling way to make a really interesting barbarian. And that's it. Thank you all so much for watching. If you're still watching at this point, I really appreciate it. If you'd like to, give us a like, a share, a comment, a subscribe. All of that really does help us out. Also, we're doing a Q&A video soon, so if you would like to have me answer any questions, because we just passed 500 subscribers, it's kind of a huge deal for us. I get that it's probably not, a huge deal to like every other YouTube channel in the world, but it is to us. And if you'd like to have me answer any of your questions, you can leave them in the comments below. There's also a community post in the communities tab if that is something you find yourself, wanting to take part in and wanting to, contribute to. But again, you can just leave them in the comments below. Again, the best way to support us, get our games from World of Game Design, Worldwise Distribution, Indie Press Revolution, or our good folks over at Exalted Funeral. And that's pretty much it. Again, thank you all so much. Like I said, it's been kind of huge, the amount of support and the outpouring of support that we've gotten in, recent days and recent memory. So again, thank you all so much. You guys are great. And yeah, I really appreciate it. So until next time, I'm Kyle Lott. Peace.